Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Hold on to your hats. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators, this one is going to feel a little bit like Christmas. I should have called this show just a good news show, but this is what it's going to be. So please, guys, don't forget, as always, give us a thumbs up or a heart or whatever it is on whichever platform you are watching from. We desperately need to show these guys that you guys are engaged, paying attention, and so you're giving thumbs up. This helps us in get a little further up the stack, I guess, per se. And give it a share if you've been around for a while. What that means and how important it is to us. And if you're new here, thank you for coming and finding us and taking a little bit of time to hang out with what you will probably find are some other like-minded people anywhere. And this is actually an international show nowadays, so I love it when people drop in the comments at least where they're coming from, so we can kind of get a feel for how far we're reaching. It's not just coast to coast in Canada, but everywhere. Hey, Brenda, absolutely. Dominoes are starting to fall. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight, poking fun at the clown world. We're going to be exposing a little bit more of the insanity. Alberta, good to know. We got Alberta in the house. All right. So it looks like we're up and running everywhere except Facebook. Of course, we are 5-0 Monday to Friday on Rumble and a few other places. Oh, at least my mouse is actually working tonight. I shouldn't be too discombobulated, but so many other places you can find us are on Substack, Wimkin, X. So far, again, YouTube. We do have a channel over there on YouTube. I don't talk about it because I'm rarely there. I see that's where Brenda is tuning in from tonight. So that is awesome. But I want to encourage everybody and introduce everybody, if you're not familiar with a site called Liberty. And I'm going to be taking a minute or two at the beginning of every show to refamiliarize you guys with places outside of the Big Brother controlled PSYOP platforms where we can reconvene, regather, and redistribute accurate information. These platforms that I'm introducing and or reintroducing every night over the next little while, these are honest, genuine, free speech platforms. They believe in the same things that we do. And they're fighting the same fights that we are. We're going to talk about some censorship tonight and some people that put in the long haul to fight for the freedom that we enjoy. So, Liberty is a great one based out of Vancouver. I think Lower Mainland, but definitely British Columbia. These guys have been through the gears and grinders too, but they're putting out a good product and so much information, so much community over on Liberty. We need to keep the free speech platforms and the truthful, authentic, genuine media going, guys. They are being crushed at every turn. I'm not just speaking for myself here when it comes to this. I mean, you guys have been looking for the truth for a very long time. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You guys can discern the fun from the funny, from the facts, and from the frauds in a lot of cases too out there in the wild, wild west of the new avatar media universe. So appreciate you guys for taking the time to be with us here tonight and helping this platform and others. Hey, Brendan, back to X. Hey, that helps. That helps. Awesome. Shared on X. On X. Thank you, DWC. Fabulous. Ontario in the house. Hey, Susie Q. Susie Q always makes me want to start singing. Uh, I'm sure you get that a lot. But let's get into unwrapping some of the presents that are going on in Canada, particularly this week. And we're going to hear from some friends, neighbors, and cousins from outside of Canada, too, as to paying attention and seeing what is going on here and calling it for what it is. So, this first clip I'm only going to play about the first minute of it. You again, everything, guys, is on Substack the next day. All the links, all the graphics, all of the PDFs, any files that I get, slideshows if I use them, transcripts are there. That is the Dropbox for everything that we use in a show the evening before. So this, I do my best to fit it all into an hour, swimming through the swamp so you don't have to, sorting out the noise from the nonsense and getting to the news. And a lot of this stuff gets overlooked. We find it in, the underground media and in a lot of different places, but you guys are going to get used to being introduced to new people that are out there doing things as well, because this is the only way that we can develop our community, and word of mouth, that is the best counter propaganda tool on the planet, bar none, that has overthrown more tyrannies and dictatorships than anything else. So this is how we work in the underground revolution of truth. So this first clip, this is going to be a tough one. The Liberals are in deep, deep caca. We're going to cover a whole bunch of reasons why. And this one came out 22 hours, so yesterday. So before even the election that we're going to talk about in just a minute. So this is a big deal that nobody's probably talking about because of the other big deals. But this is nearly catastrophic for the Liberal Party right now. So Christmas times are coming. Christmas times are coming. Give this a like and a share and make this Christmas for everybody, guys.
A political bombshell just exploded in Ottawa. Veteran Liberal MP John McKay is abandoning Trudeau's sinking ship after nearly 3 decades, and he's calling out Justin Trudeau's treasonous complicity with China on the way out. McKay torched Trudeau's dangerous and negligent China policy in an explosive resignation speech. He condemned Trudeau for ignoring China's infiltration of our democracy and institutions, a betrayal so severe even loyal Liberals like McKay can't stomach it anymore. The 27-year MP pulled no punches, blasting China as an existential threat and slamming Trudeau for failing to protect Canada. McKay warned that Chinese interference has seeped into universities, police forces, and more while Trudeau sat idle. His searing criticism shreds Trudeau's claims of taking interference seriously. McKay laid bare the ugly truth that Trudeau's approach wittingly enables Beijing's predation. Polls already show a staggering percentage of Canadians have no faith left in the Liberals' ability to safeguard our sovereignty. Now McKay's dramatic exit in protest blows the whistle even louder.
And that's where I'm gonna leave that one off. First of all, guys. So that's one of the loyalists. Been there almost since Trudeau, Justin's daddy's time. The foundation of the Liberal Party is basically had enough. Exactly, that is a bombshell. Like I said, guys, this is going to be Christmas time, and if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I dig stuff out of nowhere that nobody else is paying attention to, and this is why our government is all but turning me into a Julian Assange. Maybe actually, we'll talk about that real soon. So that was kind of a big deal that's kind of flown underneath of the radar. And the next clip is it's just a really short clip, guys. And this is Chrystia Freeland in action also yesterday. And then we'll get into the good stuff. I think I'm going to have to unmute this page for 30 seconds.
That is Leslie's vision. That's the Liberal vision. That's why I'm really calling on the people of St. Paul's to go out there and vote for her, because the alternative is really cold and cruel and small. The alternative is cuts and austerity, not believing in ourselves as a country, not believing in our communities and in our neighbors.
Are you hearing what she is calling you Canadians? If you don't go and vote for her meat muppet, this Leslie Church in Toronto, St. Paul, does that make you cold and cruel and small because you don't buy their garbage. Uh, that should we should all understand this for what this is with Christian Freeland. She is so this is her out there preening for the person. And incidentally, I didn't even realize this, but this Leslie Church had apparently been Christian Freeland's personal assistant for years and years and years and years, with a hankering for one of those MP type pensions. This kind of leaves the Liberal Party in a situation, having a conundrum, and they're going to be going into damage control as we see now two dominoes fall in the last 2 days. All right. And so, how does this look in the rest of the political pundit space? Now, here we've got Tom Mulcair, who 4 days ago or five, pardon me, 5 days ago, you can see that down here at the bottom, 5 days ago, made a very brief statement about what would happen if Trudeau did not win this upcoming by-election. If in Toronto this was key. So we'll listen to Tom for 30 seconds or 50 seconds.
What happens in the fall? Well, it's the setup to an election, and there are no
What happens in the fall?
goodies left in the cupboard because there's no money left, and they can't blow through any more deficit numbers because they're already right on the edge of what they had promised to maintain in terms of some fiscal discipline. So I think it's going to be a tough thing. The result on Monday will determine what kind of summer Trudeau has. If he's just continued to decline in his vote, he should be okay if he wins it. If he's gone down a whole lot, even if he wins it, he's going to have quite a bit of explaining to do, and a lot of nervous people in his caucus and nervous candidates. If somehow the Conservatives were actually able to pull off a win, I think that Mr. Trudeau would have no choice but to step aside.
Okay. Tom, thank you as always for your insight. Always appreciated.
All right, that's Tom Mulcair's take, and he's as you can see not a young whippersnapper or millennial. This was his prognosis 5 days ago, and since Tom's prognostication 5 days ago, we've seen Mr. McKay resign in nuclear fashion. Let's just call it that. Chrystia Freeland begging for votes for her former personal assistant. Now, there's nothing like cronyism in our government. Everything is 100% safe and effective for democracy, protecting democracy, right? It's absolutely absurd. So, yeah, absolutely absurd. So next up, we're going to listen to this, and I'll add a couple of points just as we scroll through what the National Post's take on this is as of 2 hours ago. So yeah, surprise, 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 surprise. That far right shift that they are so worried about. Apparently, it's not just happening in Europe now, is it, folks? So for 31 years, strong point for the Liberals. This is going back to McKay's days. That's a long time. These are people that have been deeply invested in the Liberal Party of Canada. Yeah, when she stepped down. So this is the result of the. This is kind of an important point. I'm just going to pause it here, but this is a result. We've been seeing over the last couple of months. Trudeau's coalition going from a majority to a minority to a coalition to needing life support, barely with numbers comparable to Joe Biden. They projected, and they were worried about this being a potential referendum on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's been down in the polls, and they can't even fake their way out of the poll numbers. As Montclair said, the cupboard is empty. They have pillaged enough that Canadians, even the most staunch parties, are losing faith. And So the same thing is going on in the UK, and Richie Sunak, his response to basically the exact same situation is to um, take a chance now while before he loses complete total support, and can't even potentially fake his way into another mandate. So this the problem with this riding is this is a money riding, and this one is going to absolutely scare the bejeepers out of the Liberal Party. And I've been seeing kind of responses where they're going back to the cupboard for a new action plan to deal with this. Trudeau's statement today was it's not what the results they were looking for. And this is, I think, just the beginning. Just the beginning. So here you go. Church was previously Christopher Freeland's, number one or personal assistant for Christopher Freeland. So this is, them, do goodery favories. You scratch my back, I'll make sure you're looked after. Typical syndicate crap. Make your bones, become protected. Miss Church one was expecting to become among the protected, and apparently y'all threw a wrench into that, and we're here celebrating on that note today. As Jim Carrey said, I have exorcised the demons, this house is clear. Well, I'm hoping that is actually the result for that riding. That'd be a sign of things to come, as it's always a teeter-totter balance of insanity in clown world. But some more good news today, as Tucker Carlson stated yesterday, that he was finally free, made the news. It's coming a little more clear on what he has had to give up in order to get his freedom after 12 years. 12 years, this man has been tortured by our Western government. So there's actually a pretty decent article in the Telegraph on outlining what. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the tilt of the Telegraph. It's not really a platform that I trust, but this was something that others will be using to reference this story, and it had pretty much the facts laid out, and it seems as if the Telegraph may have done a random act of journalism in covering Julian's story. But it's the end result of this was he didn't walk away scot-free. And gotta I don't often do this. I rarely use legacy media videos, but I'm going to use this one here because literally this is a global news clip, and it's actually not bad. We're going to suffer through this because it brings up a couple of points from some other people, and I would rather you guys hear them um, tell you guys what's on deck for Christmas and what you need to be concerned with. And it's kind of surprising to me. And this tells me, this makes me smile as to the power of you guys in our community, because we don't have an audience here. We have a community. It's the first thing I tell my guests when they come on. This is why we have kitchen table talks, because we have a community, not an audience. And we look after each other. Although I don't think anybody got the memo on Rumble. We are way down on numbers on Rumble tonight, and I don't understand why. But this clip, as of an hour ago, has 3,000 views, which is about 1/10 of the numbers that I used to get before I became among the top tier of being censored in Canada. But yeah, they've got 4 million subscribers and get ballpark similar number of views. Good job, guys. High five. Let's hear what they've got to tell us about Julian Assange, and then I'll address a few points on why this clip is important.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has agreed to plead guilty to a felony charge in a deal with the U.S. Justice Department that will allow him to walk free. Assange revealed state secrets about America's wars on his website, WikiLeaks. U.S. prosecutors have been trying to get him back on American soil to face charges for years. The plea deal he's agreed to sign will take place on a remote island in the Western Pacific Ocean.
I feel elated. I also feel worried, because I'm so used to this. Anything could happen. I'm worried that until it's fully signed off. I worry, but it looks like we've got there, and Julian's free. So I'll really believe it when I have him in front of me, and I can take him and hug him, and then it will be real. Yes, I mean, when we met, he was under house arrest. It will be the first time that I get to see him as a fully free man. And when I was speaking to him, I said, well, we can go for a walk, and there will be no restrictions, no curfew, no, all this it's so alien to the way we've it's been until now for the past 14 years. I don't know what happens next. I think that Australia is a very good place to regain your health and sanity. I think that goes not just for Julian, but for me as well. It's been a rough, very rough few years, and we need some time. And I think Australia is very supportive of Julian. Obviously, I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't the case. The population, the parliament, the government, and so on. So, what's important is that Julian's safe, and that we have time to be able to move into the next chapter.
I've been very clear as both the Labor leader in opposition, but also as Prime Minister, that regardless of the views that people have about Mr. Assange's activities, the case has dragged on for too long. Yeah. There's nothing to be gained by his continued incarceration, and we want him brought home to Australia. And we have engaged and advocated Australia's interests using all appropriate channels to support a positive outcome, and I've done that since very early on in my Prime Ministership. I will have more to say when these legal proceedings have concluded, which I hope will be very soon.
I think that the correct course of action from the US government should have been to drop the case entirely. We will be seeking a pardon, obviously, but the fact that there is a guilty plea.
You notice the cover on that, those documents that he's holding up there, right?
Under the Espionage Act in relation to obtaining and disclosing national defense information is obviously a very serious concern for journalists and national security journalists in general.
Well, I think enough was enough. I'm pleased that he's been released. I'm sorry that it's taken a plea on a charge of espionage, because I don't think actually anybody thinks that what he was doing was espionage. The use of these really punitive laws to which there is no defense will have had the effect of silencing all kinds of journalists from doing this kind of journalism.
Regardless of what this means for Mr. Assange, it's terrible for the United States. This prosecution should not have happened. This is the first time in the 100-year history of the Espionage Act that a journalist or someone committing journalism, someone engaging in journalistic act, has been prosecuted under the Espionage Act for essentially receiving information and communicating information. Now, this is something that journalists do all the time. They receive information and they communicate information. And journalists who cover national security have a responsibility to try to help keep the rest of us informed about what our government is up to.
If that isn't all we exist for in this space, is to disseminate information, we need to be incredibly terrified of what they have, what they're setting precedent with this. And this is it's actually that last comment that was the most important part of that entire clip. When I was looking into the plans, the UNSDA, the Rockefeller report, the Lockstep report, that's the Rockefeller report, unrestricted warfare report, all of these things, the playbook starts to become much, much clearer, over the last number of years. This is Bill C-63, Bill C-18, Bill C-11, these things that are choking out the media. I was not being melodramatic or any of those things when I've said over the last number of years that they want to make anybody into Julian Assange. And right now, they've got him where as the Guardian editor stated, in how do you defend yourself against a government that wants to make up what they decide is espionage? And you can't defend yourself in a case like that. And that's basically what Bill C-63 is going to give those kinds of powers to the Canadian Liberal Psychopath Party, I guess, for lack of a better term. I do know that BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are shareholders. I don't think that they have, they're over the 10% range. I have to look into that, but sorry, DCW, that was a comment. He had heard that BlackRock has shares in Rumble. Rumble has been, for the most part, pretty good, although they have removed a couple of my videos, and I've seen others that they have removed videos from. So they are, it appears, controlled opposition at this point. But I mean, I built LGM. I can't get people to use it. So until we get people off of places like YouTube and X and Rumble and Facebook and all of these platforms, we're stuck with trying to drag people away from the poison and the poison store. And at this point, I can't. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. I can show you guys LGM and these other platforms, but I cannot make you go there. I've been trying for a couple of years. Oh, wow. So I'm getting a comment on one of the other platforms. They're having trouble with Rumble. We've had this before. If you've are having trouble with Rumble, some people have had success just refreshing their browser, and they've been able to get back in. But I can tell, I can absolutely tell that this is what they're doing. Yeah, less than 5%, but cumulatively they have an impact on what Rumble says and does, and that knock-on effect or is what we have to deal with. Your videos are all, remember, just a day late, no live right now. Yeah, the live is running right now. There's 20 people in the live right now. Try refreshing. This is getting disturbing. This site can't be reached for LGM. See? And yet I can see on my dashboard here, I'm streaming live to all of them. I'm getting a comment over on Instagram that this site can't be reached on LGM. No live on Rumble for tonight either. Wow. And here I can't really, I suppose, yeah, I can show you. It'll probably go into tunnel effect, but I will show you guys all that Rumble is in fact streaming live. Wow. This is the Rumble stream. Streaming live here over there. A couple people commenting. I suppose 21 watching. Show you. Tell me they are not messing. But I will show you guys all my junk. Rumble, right? Still no live. Mac is, and Moose, in fact, streaming live. refreshed, still no live on Rumble.
Wow. This is
I really
Rumble
wish I
stream.
knew what to tell you. I can't even really redirect you to my What's on Canada platform because that's been hacked as well. My junk. Been fighting with it for a couple of days, and yeah, 30,000 hack attempts in a few weeks on my whatsupcanada.org website, mostly from the Ukraine and Netherlands. Apparently they haven't got enough from Canada. They want my website too. So yeah, this is Wayne's World in a nutshell for me, guys. Oh yeah. See, double audio now. I gotta stop sharing that page. Should be all right. I know it takes a few seconds. So okay, we are over on to more of the censorship. Yeah, that would have been because I was pulling up the stream while I was streaming. See, there's the evidence, guys. The stream is live on Rumble. So that was what the double echo was all about. So not sure. Yeah, so that's because I've moved off that page, off of that live stream. So the last weekend there's been some really big events going on in Canada. We're gonna listen to this video. But first, I wanted to read this. A peer-reviewed study initially censored by The Lancet, which analyzed 325 COVID vax autopsy cases, found that 74% of the deaths were directly linked to the C-19 vaccine. Are the mainstream media mercenaries talking about this? Probably not. They're all licking Trudeau's boots, feeling boo-hoo for each other right now. But this is what's going on. The study suggests that most of these deaths were due to vaccine-induced heart damage and blood clots. It's like we didn't know, right? The findings have sparked discussions about the safety and long-term effects of C-19 vaxes, with some users expressing concerns over the vax's impact on public health and the need for further investigation. Gee, you think? Do you think? What they have done has been beyond the pale as far as when it comes to crime and genocide and murder, in my opinion. And we're going to hear some other highly educated opinions.
Found out a few hours ago something that very exciting. Last year, some of us submitted a vaccine injury paper to The Lancet, to one of the biggest journals in the world. Myself, Dr. Mark Trozzi, Dr. Roger Hodkinson, and other doctors. That paper was about autopsy series, the largest autopsy series in the world. People who took COVID-19 vaccines and then died suddenly a few days or a few weeks after. That paper was downloaded hundreds of thousands of times, and within 24 hours, there was so much pressure put on by the pharmaceutical industry that The Lancet took the paper down, canceled it, and basically wanted to cancel it forever so that it would never see the light of day. I just found out a few hours ago that that paper has passed peer-reviewed and is going to be published. It is the largest autopsy series in the world of COVID-vaccinated people who dropped dead a few hours or a few days or a few weeks after taking the COVID-19 vaccine. We did a rigorous review of these autopsies, and we found that about 74% of the cases of sudden death were caused or contributed to by the vaccine. That is now a peer-reviewed paper that's going to be published. And the reason I'm telling you that is that there is more evidence coming every single day. And it's not a little bit of evidence. It's not a case report here that they're going to dismiss, or a case report there, or a paper that The Lancet is going to take down and say, don't look at this autopsy series, and we'll just bury it and make sure it never sees the light of day. There's going to be a tsunami of evidence of the harm of these COVID-19 vaccines, whether it's harming children, pregnant women, adults. And my message to the politicians is, get ahead of this if you can. Don't chase after when all the evidence is out and then you're caught with your pants down. Found out a few hours.
All right, that's pretty big news that that report. We brought it up. We talked about it when it first came out. We talked about how they had canceled it, how people like David Fissman, this Harvard parachute in quote unquote fake expert, had frauded our Canadian establishments. Theresa Tam. I mean, we have got hundreds of hours of testimony and evidence shared that this report is going to corroborate. So this is probably one of the reasons why our government loves me just so very, very much. Proud to be of service. Until they turn me into Julian Assange. I'll still be proud to be of service, but I won't be out here poking the bear with all of you fine folks when that happens. But in the same vein of censorship, we're going to have some more breaking news to everybody here in just a minute. But I wanted to play just a minute here in the vein of censorship, because there's another bill coming down the pipe, and a lot of folks may be aware that Danielle Smith is meeting them head on like a freight train, and we're going to take a quick look at what she's talking about, and then we're going to talk. That's when I'm going to introduce you to another slimy swamp creature.
In an astonishing move by province's premiers, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe have vowed to fight against what they see as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's attempt to censor and destroy the province's oil and gas industries. Apparently, the Prime Minister can't keep his hands to himself and extended this hand to Saskatchewan in order to meddle in its affairs as well. A Liberal government who can't take a hint to stop meddling in one province but plays deaf to meddle in another one. The recent passing of Bill C-59 by the Liberal government has sparked outrage among the premiers in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The controversial bill contains provisions that allow the Federal Competition Commissioner to review any statements made by energy companies regarding climate change and the environment. Companies must provide adequate substantiation based on internationally recognized methodology for any claims about reducing emissions or having more environmentally friendly practices. The vagueness of these requirements has the oil and gas industry up in arms. They argue it creates uncertainty and stifles their ability to communicate about efforts to improve environmental performance.
And ta-da! We're going to show you how the government is going to force them to do that. Welcome to Diligent. It's time to bring clarity, simplicity, and security to your board meetings. Discover why 25,000 boards and 700,000 directors rely on Diligent for their board solutions. Explore our risk-clarifying templates covering compliance, ESG, and beyond. With AI-driven insights and tools, spend less time deciphering data and more time making confident decisions, all on one platform. And what do? They empower leaders to drive greater impact. At Diligent, we believe in a world where transformational leaders can build more successful, equitable, and sustainable organizations. 1 million users and more than 700,000 board members and leaders rely on Diligent software to connect insights across governance, risk, compliance, audit, and ESG to drive greater impact with lead and purpose. Anybody's blood running a little bit cold at just the sound of that? Because it probably should when I show this one to you guys here. And this is on their blog page, actually. Quite interesting how these guys are navigating Canada's proposed sustainability disclosures, an overview of some of the new policies that they're teaching companies how to speak to. And if this proposal is officially adopted, let me back it up here just a bit here. Like many other countries, Canada is taking significant steps toward mandatory sustainability disclosure when the Canadian Sustainability Standards Board, a new alphabet agency, comes calling. So I pulled up this to exposure drafts for public feedback. So this is how they're going to determine what becomes policy. But y'all out there probably never heard about this feedback loop that they created back in March 2024, asking for input on Canada releases proposed IFRS-based sustainability reporting standards. This is what Daniel Smith and Scott Moe are signing up, are speaking on what they're going against. This is literally the Stasi forcing mandatory compliance on how they are able to describe their efforts, their work, their energy in what they do here in Canada. And this will apply to under the entire full broad spectrum of the ESG DEI agenda. So there's a lot here to digest, guys. Way too much for this northern swamp donkey to deal with while trying to do 5 shows a week for you guys. But this is some stuff that we need to get ahead of, and at some point we have to understand how dangerous these NGOs, nonprofits, and organizations are to, and they're blindsiding us. They're truly blindsiding us. But this section at the bottom here, before I get on to the next part of the story here, I'm going to have to just kind of speed things up here a little bit. But adhering to the Canadian standards can enhance a business reputation, make you more attract socially responsible investors and mitigate risks associated with climate change and sustainability issues. This is the extortion going on at the banking level and the corporate municipal level, forcing people out of their businesses and into 15-minute cities and those kinds of things. So this is literally mandating the verbal ability for anybody to articulate and go with their business and defend themselves, through negotiation. You're only going to be allowed to use words that they determine, or you're not going to be able to exist. And this is some of the things we've seen them pressuring and extorting in the financial sector, banks, all of that kind of stuff. Remember when Trudeau said that we need to do a diversity what was it, for road construction, we need to do a diversity analysis and make sure that there's enough genders getting jobs in the road construction. So we need this gender bias study. And if your company doesn't make the grade, these are the guys that are teaching everybody that you're no good. They will blacklist you and bankrupt you, right? So furthermore, voluntary adoption of these standards before they become mandatory can prepare businesses for future regulatory changes and align them with the international rules-based order. International best practices under the ESG DEI Stasi fascists. I'm going to stop. I don't have time to get off the rails. So I'm hoping that this makes a splash out there. It's unfortunate that people aren't really getting to see this show tonight, because this is breaking news that nobody's going to be seeing because they are going to be otherwise polarized. Thank goodness hockey's over for Canada. Not saying I'm glad the Oilers lost. I am not, but I'm glad that distraction is gone. So, and what does that ultimately, all of this do? All of this policy, all of this garbage, this insanity that these guys are manifesting, forcing, extorting out of our businesses, the relationships, our economy. What does that mean? What is the impact of that? Well, people don't have to wonder why more Southeastern Asian countries have signaled interest to join BRICS. Every day, you read through this. Why? It's a part of their own calculations of their national interests and desire to diversify their options in the global economic arena. They want to do what's best for their damn countries. And that's why they are leaving business, the you know the insanity of that the West is trying to dictate upon them as well, of this one world rules based international psycho order, and they're not having it. And here's just a few nations that are listed here again in one article: Thailand. Who is there? Was some other ones here that I see in here. There was like 3 or 4 here. We have to go further on. And here we go. Here we are. Indonesia, Myanmar, and Laos, Singapore, Philippines, but they're considering it. This is why. Who wants to do business with these lunatics? In Canada, then nobody's going to invest in Canada or do anything. And I genuinely believe that is part of the treason by design being committed by these WEF Fourth Reich disciples. They are creating this and destroying our countries so that they can rule over the ashes the way they see fit, like Sauron and Mordor. That's what they want. We need to get on our MPs' butts, but we have to be educated, and they're doing their best to make sure that I can't teach you or share anything with you. This is absolutely critical for us to do this now. And if we wait till Pierre Polyev gets in there, it's all over. It's all over. Everybody's gonna go to sleep. Nobody's going to address a thing. They're just going to sit down and go, "Oh, Pierre's going to fix it." And yeah. Well, BRICS is going to be a rules-based order as well. I'm not saying that that's any better, but what I'm saying is the world, the playing field is definitely tilting, and we are on the losing end of the stick with going down with the Titanic, following the path that we have. I'm 100% pulling Iceland. I'm not interested in becoming a BRICS nations either, but the inevitability is the whole world is turning their backs on us, and we are riding it down with the psychopaths. So there's now we're going to get into a little bit more of what I believe this is when I say, the infiltration and the treason from within, that no nation can withstand the treason from within, is the saying as it goes. So either we eliminate the treason or our nation does not survive. Now I'm going to bring up something that I think is critical for everybody to understand. I've brought this up many, many, many times. We interviewed Rich Higgins. This cost him his life. I talk about this unrestricted warfare report from 1999. I'm going to include the PDF file in the Substack again. As far as, this is one of those things that we are back in the Overton window. Why is all of this stuff happening? It is literally unrestricted warfare. When you read all of the playbook reports that they've delivered over the last number of decades, and you start adding up the collusion and the crime sprees, they have been waging unconditional warfare, or unrestricted and unconventional warfare upon us through foreign influence, through these people that we have trusted and become victims of a false, fraudulent system that pretends to portray our best interests. So we've got a bunch of pages to go through here. So I'm going to rattle this off really, really quick, and you all are going to need to understand your enemy and what we're up against, and in order to understand how much trouble we're in. But I'm going to go through this report, go through the PDF itself. It's a book, but this is written. I'm not going to agree with this entirely. It was initially released as a white paper report, and I have questions as to whether it's all going to be there compared in the books and whatever else is out there, as to whether it's all there compared to the original report. But what it was is a military strategy concept that was first introduced by two Chinese colonels. I'm not going to try those in their 1999 book. This is where it came out initially as a white paper, so it may have been out before 1999. Regardless, moot point. Unrestricted warfare. The book discusses new types of warfare that may be conducted by civilians as well as by soldiers, including computer, hacker attacks, trade wars, and finance wars. Our government is notorious for talking about parts of the problem. They'll talk about foreign influence, meddling, interference, spying, and treason when it pertains to India or perhaps the CCP, but they don't use the same rules when they look at their own mirror faces in the mirrors when it comes to WEF, the Bilderbergs, all of those organizations. So when we look at some of these points, these key concepts and examples, that's what I want people to think about is the examples when we get there in just a minute. A type of warfare that goes beyond traditional military tactics and strategies, using non-military means to achieve strategic goals. PSYOPs might be one. Pandemics might be one. Human trafficking might be another one. Migrant caravans, convoys might be another one. You think any of those might qualify? So using unconventional methods, information warfare, the use of information and communication technologies to disrupt or destroy an opponent's ability to command and control their forces. How about their damn countries? We are definitely experiencing disruption in our ability to communicate and control our own communities, are we not? This is absolutely warfare. Cyber warfare, the use of computer systems and networks to disrupt or destroy an opponent's ability to command and control their forces or their communications platforms, social engagement, reach, any of those things. Gee, you think? Examples. Here's they're actually talking about some of these, and I pulled these up. Some other examples of this here, but some of the implications of new forms of warfare. Unrestricted warfare has led to the development of new forms of warfare that are not limited to traditional military tactics and strategies. I think people are getting schooled on drone capabilities right now, are they not? I would say that that's a relatively new development on the tactical form of warfare that wasn't really in the books before. It's increased the complexity of warfare, making it more difficult to protect and prepare for. So maybe you might want to stop picking fights that you can't win, right? It's increased the risk of conflict, and it allows for the use of non-military means to achieve strategic objectives. And I talk about this often too, about the advancements of technology. One side or the other seeks to leverage that to control and conquest and gain territory, wealth, all of those things until there is parity, until both sides have the same technology. Then all of a sudden they don't want to fight anymore, right? So we're kind of in that struggle mode. The birth of new nations between the East and the West, the BRICS and the petrodollar economies. This is the war that's waging, and we are all collateral damage that they do not mind expending in order to achieve their means. Because to them, 300 years of doing this, they don't care about. We're livestock to them. It's not just the Club of Rome that thinks that way. It is literally the economic dynasties that think that way as well as all of the agencies and organizations involved in the public-private partnerships that are making up the international rules-based Fourth Reich. So yeah, new challenges. I think if we weren't picking fights, we wouldn't have to worry about getting our asses handed to us. So in conclusion, unrestricted warfare is a complex and evolving concept that has significant implications for military strategy and tactics. It is essential for military leaders to understand the concepts and implications of unrestricted warfare in order to develop effective strategies for responding to it. We are not immune from that need, guys. We need to know and understand exactly that. So here's a couple of examples of what unrestricted warfare looks like in action. We don't think of this as war. This is the problem. This is why I'm trying to get people to evolve their understanding of what is war. We are running around watching hockey games while the devil is destroying us, and every evil minion that he has in the swamp is, and we are trying our best to maintain normalcy when we should be understanding the level of warfare we are actually fighting before they have people like myself and others just like me, which is becoming a scarce, endangered species few of. We need to understand more critically the level of warfare being waged upon us. Absolutely, Brenda. Like the war in Ukraine, distractions. Conventional warfare is being replaced by high-tech drone warfare. Exactly. That's the when it comes to the videos of that, um, I have access to all of that frontline drone footage, the GoPros, the cams that all of these soldiers wear, and my initial intent was to share some of this with you guys, but to be honest with you, I can't. It fucks me up too much. I just can't do it. Um, so this is why I'm back up to 30,000 feet talking about things. I cannot get these images out of my head about the savagery. I was trained for warfare. I went through the training. I never fought, but I went through the training. I've seen enough to understand what our John Q. Public's image of what warfare means. It's not Tom Cruise, Top Gun, or John Wayne. No way, folks. It is unbelievably disconnected from humanity and utterly the most savage implementation of technology. We are far closer to the Terminator um, than we are to conventional warfare. The difference between even the Gulf War and the Ukraine War is, light years ahead of what anybody would have expected. So this is cyber attacks. The 2020 SolarWinds hack, which affected several government agencies and private companies, an example of unrestricted warfare. The attack used a combination of cyber and social engineering tactics to gain access to sensitive information. Interesting. Trade wars. Do we seen any of those happening anywhere around the world lately? The ongoing trade tensions between the United States and China are an example of unrestricted warfare. The use of tariffs and other economic measures to disrupt trade and commerce is a form of economic warfare. Why do you think kids starved to death in Africa for 2 decades post? It wasn't because of just droughts and famine and UNICEF. It was because conquering nations made it happen exactly like they did in Russia, they did in China. Marx did it. Stalin did it. Mao did it. Pol Pot did it. And Trudeau and Klaus Schwab are trying to do it too. The exact same shit. Wash, rinse, repeat, guys. The only difference is advancing technology makes them more eager to go out there and try and conquer with all of their new toys. Finance wars, 2019 Hong Kong protests, Canadian trucker convoy, which were sparked by a proposed extradition bill, are an example of unrestricted warfare. The protests used a combination of peaceful and violent tactics to disrupt the economy and government of Hong Kong. Information operations, the use of social media and other online platforms to spread disinformation and propaganda is an example of unrestricted warfare. This tactic has been used by various actors, including every actor in Hollywood working for the beast machine, including nation states and non-nation actors, to influence public opinion and shape the narrative. That wouldn't be anything like our liberal government recently getting busted hiring influencers to try and program us into compliance with their insanity. You think our own government is waging any of these types of things against our own unsuspecting population? That's treason, folks. That's treason. Skipping over a couple of these to let people know that everywhere the WEF and the petrodollar US oligarchy, the St. Laurentian elite psychopathic cabal has their sticky fingers in, is experiencing the same problems, and the populations are trying to fight back the best they can in their own ways as well. So again, this is kind of letting everybody know you are not alone. Canada is not alone. US is not alone. UK is not alone. Costa Rica is fighting back and actually getting somewhere in their fights. So these are some really in-depth Substack articles, guys, about court cases going on in Costa Rica and what it's exposing in these court cases, which is rather interesting. So Constitutional Chamber of Costa Rica rules how to stop the illegal international health regulation amendments. That's a big deal. The IHR amendments would waive Nuremberg Code for cell and gene therapy and must be nullified. Boom. Exactly what we have been trying to get across to the judiciary here in Canada. But so long as they take judicial notice on the fraudulent science, until they get us signed in to that freaking pandemic treaty and all of the IHR regulations that WHO control, this is what they're doing. And if we get through waiving the Nuremberg codes, there is never accountability for far worse crimes than the Nazis ever dreamt of committing. And when you dig into this a little bit deeper, not only did they rule against the IHR amendments, they dumped the WHO, but also provided suggestions of how to constitutionally remove this from their country. So big win for Costa Rica on that note. And what did that mean? A couple of days later, June 25th. So this is today's news. Costa Rica arrests to prosecute 8 judicial officials of different rank for several highly serious crimes, including rigging the court, breach of duty, in an effort to finally clean out the corruption. This is how you do it. Go hard, Costa Rica. Get her done. This is, other nations showing they can do it, and if they can do it, we can do it too. All we have to do is break their control of communications and information. That only the truth will set us free. That's why they fear people like me the most, more than anything out there. Why they fear the Julian Assanges. Why they fear the Alex Joneses. We don't have to always be right. That isn't what they fear. But they fear the percentage of times that we are and what we are sharing and showing to the world. And they do not have, on a fair ground, fair footing, the ability to live up to the lie. So getting down here, last couple of articles, guys. I've got one more clip here. Slovakia COVID U committee, there was no pandemic as well. Everything else after that determination is fraud and crime. Everything. This is exactly what we have to understand. The government commission stated there was no pandemic. Now let the investigations commence. Well, that's what's going on in Slovakia. But now we get into something a little bit more darker and a little bit more dangerous. These guys, these meat muppets that are walking us into World War III in order to cover up the greatest crime spree in human history. That's what that's what this is all about. Smoke and mirrors, distraction, propaganda, programming to keep us from understanding what is truly going on. And the more desperate they get, the more desperate things that they will do. And this is an act of absolute and utter desperation. You'll probably would have heard about the Crimea attack. Alex and Alex talk about it. Couple of notes. I just grabbed a couple of notes from the comments section of Alex and Alex, but I'm going to play. This is just a minute and 30 seconds, and it's important that we understand what these meat muppets, these clowns are doing, what the dangers that they're creating and manifesting, and most of our population is oblivious. We're they're sleepwalking us into horrible things. So
Kiev regime, supported by the USA, and carried out a heinous attack against civilians in the Russian city of Sevastopol in Crimea. Ukraine launched 5 US supplied ATACMS missiles armed with cluster munitions. All flight missions were introduced by the US experts based on the US satellite intelligence. An American Global Hawk UAV was patrolling the airspace over the Crimean Peninsula. The beach area, packed with peaceful citizens enjoying their weekend and Orthodox holiday, was hit. Fire came from the sky on unprotected people who had nowhere to hide. Sand turned into blood. The video footage from the scene is just shocking. 151 persons were injured, among them 27 children. 4 people died, including 2 children. They will never have a chance to enjoy a summer day again. The investigative committee of the Russian Federation has started to investigate this heinous crime. All responsible for this and other terrorist attacks will be held accountable. The fact that the US is directly involved in this crime is beyond any doubt. Washington and its allies foster a neo-Nazi regime in Kiev and encourage their puppets in Kiev to commit terrorist acts against civilians. Recently, the NATO countries gave the Kiev regime a green light to conduct strikes deep into the Russian territory.
no doubt about it, guys. Not even if, and, but, or maybe. This was so that was at the UN Security Council, where that video clip was from. According to independent media corroboration, 4 missiles were intercepted by air defenses, which was kind of a feeling out process. They want to know where Russia's air defenses are, so they do things that makes the Russian air defenses expose themselves. So I don't. What I'm reading here is some quotes and notes that I took earlier, guys, and I'm not sure how to put them in. I'll put them into the Substack, but I can't really show you on the show here tonight. But the fifth missile. The other 4 were intercepted. The 5th was only tagged, veered off course from its trajectory, and detonated its cluster's warhead over the busy Black Sea beach. It was a stat holiday kind of day. As a result, the falling fragments of cluster munitions led to the casualties that were described there. 4 dead, 2 children, 150 injured, including 47 children injured. Lavrov has said that this attack will not remain unanswered. The Russian Defense Ministry has made the initial statement. I'd like to ask, American reconnaissance, American data entry, American targeting, American ordnance, American operating crews, Russian targets, and innocent civilian victims. How is this not an attack by Americans? By America? I don't know how to justify this away. I don't know how anybody can justify this away. If the U.S. is directing attacks at Russia through Ukraine as a proxy front, Russia could do the exact same thing using fringe players like to take out U.S. bases under. It could be under attack in 950 different locations around the world, give or take. And when we see a global shift towards wanting to do business based on their nation's interests with the BRICS nations more than they want to do business with us, this should be a disturbing situation. So that was that last comment was from an American. It was an American that asked these questions. So the rest of that was I'm angry about these terrorist attacks, and I also want our enemies to be razed to the ground, but all response actions must be taken with a cool... Oh, sorry, this was from a Russian. Sorry, I got a couple of Russian responses here. People say, the legacy mercenary medias are saying, oh, Putin has a huge disapproval rate. Russia's politically in trouble. He's politically in trouble because of this statement. Putin is infuriatingly soft. That's the political threat to Putin. That's it. The Russian people are tired of being the scapegoats for Biden's treachery and the WEF and the EU's treachery. They're tired of it. Why should Russians be suffering because of that treachery? They've constantly come to the table, negotiated in fair willingness, and had their faces slapped, and now civilians getting attacked. How long can we expect Putin to not take action and appease his political situation? I'm worried. So another Russian says that I'm angry about these terrorist attacks, and I also want all of our enemies to be razed to the ground, but all response actions must be taken with a cool head, which is what our government is doing. So thank goodness there are some people over there with a better sense of reality than what any or the vast majority of our population has. And he goes on to say, I can say one thing. All of these terrorist attacks and hostile actions of the fascists, the USA, England, and Europe, not a single Russian will forget, and punishment will overtake all those involved in the terrorist attacks. The Bidenettes and true dorks are going to push and push and push to the point of infinite rage and anger. Infinite. And that's all for tonight, folks. Christmas in a nutshell. The first half of the show was what we need to focus our energies on if we don't want to deal with what those guys on the front end of the show are leading us into, what we talked about here at the tail end. So that's it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. The likes, the shares, the support. If you find value in what we do, there's a way that you can help down here. It's more critical than ever. We need the help now more than ever. I can't afford to hire people to fix the hacking that's going on. So I'm struggling through it. I sure would love to. But we aren't that grown up yet. But until then, we'll struggle through it. And I will keep going here, hold my beer. And although I don't touch beer, it's coffee for me. And we will be back tomorrow. I haven't got the guest lined up, so I'm not going to drop a teaser and make a liar out of myself. But tomorrow will be guest night. So 6 p.m. Central, guys. Remember to tune in and find us here because they are going to make it difficult. So remember those platforms. Find us on Substack. All of the resources that I provided here will be in the Substack. It will be out sometime early tomorrow morning. And we will see you tomorrow. I love you all, my fellow patriots. And hostages too, right? We're all a bunch of hostages to the insanity until we can get past some of the psychopathy and get to a little bit of normalcy. So I love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain, 4 Pacific. Bye for now.